Always. So I'm on vacation this week. So in my steed, I have this. This is, I'm going to tell you, the listeners, is maybe the most nervous I've ever been interviewing people. I've interviewed people that I've met casually, comic book people, wrestling people that I knew through friends. But never have I been more nervous to interview the host of the most famous podcast in the world. Also, the co-host of Subreddit Surfing. Also, the triple co-host, because there's a bunch of Yo Remember the 90s. Star of many, many other podcasts. Guest star of many other podcasts. As seen in the hit film Detroit Rock City. Cardiff Electric. Cardiff, thank you for joining me on the podcast tonight.
Oh, thank you. Hello. Oh, damn it. Sorry, I'm used to hearing that when I enter a room. But yes, thank you. Thank you for having me, Mushroom.
We'll just say Joe. I haven't changed that. That's an old message board screen name because I've been on Skype for 17 years, however long Skype has been around.
Skype is old enough to go to war now. Yes, stop using it. There's other things, Joe.
So the problem with that is the people that I record podcasts. I'm willing to like record through Discord like people do, StreamYard, things of that nature. I will firmly place the blame on my co-hosts and their unwillingness to learn new technology.
Pointing a finger. Good job.
Right. But I will say in the, however many years plus that I've been doing podcasting outside of my own user error, like sometimes Skype will just decide one day that my microphone is also my speaker.
Yes.
I think I've only had like 3 foul-ups with Skype in the entire time that I've ever been using it. So I don't know. It's not the best, but what do you recommend?
Is that what we're here to talk about? Software for recording podcasts?
No, we're here to talk about you, but we're here to.
Oh, okay.
So,
StreamYard. Next question.
All right, thank you. Okay, so obviously you were known throughout the Dabbleverse, spinning out of who are these podcasts, WATP. Stuttering John, that whole thing, but that's like secondary to me. Like anybody, I want to know the bits and information that I've gleaned from watching and listening to so much of you, and a lot of it involves professional wrestling. I would say that you were a lapsed fan. You're probably not watching the current product, I would guess.
I'm not. I've lapsed multiple times.
Right, so that was going to be my question, because, I have friends and family that have waxed and waned of popularity, but they still consider themselves fans. Like, I don't think my brother has watched the current stuff in many, many years, but he'll still send me like, oh, here's this Ric Flair meme, or here's this Randy Orton thing, Yes. When did you, what's your first memory of watching professional wrestling? Like the first time that it grabbed you?
I believe it was, this might not be the first. I might have already been kind of in, but I have a very vivid memory being in a department store. And you know how they used to have like they'd have the living room set up and they'd have a TV because they're selling everything in that set, right? So they set it up like a living room scene. And I remember walking by and I guess someone had put in the videotape of WrestleMania 1.
Ooh.
And I believe I sat on that sofa and I watched the entire WrestleMania 1 in the middle of a department store. I may have been called missing. I don't know. I don't care. But that was my only. I wasn't getting pay-per-views. I wasn't, I wasn't going to get I don't even think we had a VCR. So to see this event in front of me, I could not leave.
So, that's 1984. I think that's, I'm a big wrestling guy. So all this stuff is.
VHS could have been watched at any time. I'm just saying.
Right. Okay. So that
20 years later.
Yes. Okay. So you see WrestleMania 1, you're transfixed.
Yes.
Now, does this begin watching on TV, finding out if there's live events?
Yes.
Do you remember like your first? Did you ever attend a live wrestling event, whether it be the untelevised or televised events?
Not as a child. As a young adult, yes.
Okay.
Many.
So I assume that when you were at the department store, you were a young adult.
No.
No. So,
Little boy.
Oh, okay.
A little boy. But yes, no, I had other than that, yeah, I started watching it on TV when you could. You know, it'd be on Saturday mornings, Saturday afternoons. Then Saturday night's main event.
Yes.
Started happening, and that was like, what? You know, I had to sneak downstairs or sneak a little portable TV in my room to try and watch it with like no volume because you had to stay up for that. But I wasn't allowed to stay up for wrestling. If it was church, I could stay up, not wrestling.
No, see, I had an uncle who would, he had a VCR. He had a fancy job as a truck driver. And he would record them, and then Sunday after church, we would watch the Saturday night's main events. So that was like the carrot dangled of like, behave during church. You can watch your wrestling that you couldn't stay up for last night.
Smart plan.
Mm-hmm. So did you so when you said you attended as a young adult, so did you have like your falling out of popularity with wrestling and then it comes back and then you go to see live events? Like, did you go during like the Hulk Hogan era, the Macho Man era, the Ultimate Warrior era?
No. So I was a fan as a young boy, the Hogan era. I was a Hogan, Andre, Macho Man. Those were my guys in the 80s. And I guess into the 90s. Then I fell off. And I came back as a young adult, kind of the Attitude Era.
Of course.
And then fell off again kind of shortly after the Attitude Era. And I haven't gone back.
That is so many people's story, but obviously those two times in your life where wrestling was such a big part of, so many other people's lives. And I think obviously, as you mentioned, your life as well. You still have that fandom in you because you'll mention on the shows like, oh, I watched the Annie biography thing, or I watched the Dark Side of the Ring. And I think you just recently mentioned that you watched the Netflix Ohio Valley Wrestling thing.
Yes, the wrestlers. Yes.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Snow.
Yeah.
So it's still in me.
Yeah.
Is it in you?
Oh yes, it's been in me.
Is it in you?
Yeah. Well.
Is not in you?
It's definitely a part of me. I'm not a physically I never saw myself as like a physical person. Like I'm going to be a wrestler. That's the thing. So we're talking WWF. Oh, you were going to be a wrestler.
I wanted to go to wrestling school.
Oh, you did. Now I have a friend of mine that went to the ECW school and he lasted a day. Did you ever get to that point where you're like, I'm going to do it? I saved up the money. I'm going to find out where the school nearest me is, and I'm going to get trained, and I'm going to do it. Like, did it ever go that far, or was it just like a pie in the sky sort of thing?
Just one of the millions of things I said I wanted to do. Just one of the millions of things.
Well, we'll get into at least 4 of the million today. So we talked about WWF stuff, Monday Night Wars, the Attitude Era. Were you WWF? Were you WCW? Did you watch
WWF?
Yes.
I was WWF 100%. WCW, I never even gave a look at, and only because I remember when I was younger, as a boy, seeing WCW probably on like TBS or whatever.
Right.
And it was so garbage looking. Like it just looked like if you remember it looked like a high school gym most of the time. It was shot, but WWF was lit well and produced, and it looked great. So yeah, it always just seemed so cheap that when I came back into wrestling, I didn't even think of WCW. I kind of knew what was going on. I was aware, but no, I was only WWF.
No ECW came across your purview either?
No.
Okay.
Later on, obviously, as it became part of. Yeah, I guess probably right before they bought ECW, maybe I started checking it out.
Yeah.
Like right before, but I don't want to say I was like ECW for life.
Right.
But I never liked that. That stuff was just kind of, that wasn't for me.
My friend, I was a fan. My friend Todd would see events from there, and he would say that looks like a building full of attention deficit criminals, and he wasn't wrong.
Yes, that's a good phrase.
Yes. So you said that as a young adult you would go to shows. Was it just like the non-televised events? Did you ever go to a pay-per-view? Did you ever get like that experience?
WrestleMania.
Was it now I was to WrestleManias in several places as well. I went to the one at Toronto Skydome for Hulk and The Rock. I'm guessing was that the one that you were at as well?
That is the one I flew from Minnesota for.
Yes.
Yes, X8.
I drove from Pennsylvania for that one. It was a much different time. I'm pretty sure we had a car full of people, and there was a lot of people's girlfriends in the cars sleeping, and the border post 9/11 had no questions for a bunch of late teenage, early 20s girls asleep in the backseat trunk of the station wagon we were in. They're like, no, go ahead, guys. No passports, no nothing. I figured we would have got it popped. But yes, you flew from Minnesota.
Yes.
X8, what an experience to be there live.
Yes. And before that, there were a bunch of like SmackDowns or Raws.
Sure.
They came through Minnesota all the time.
Yes.
We used to even hang out at the hotels where the wrestlers would stay. Met a bunch of wrestlers, after shows. It's fun. Road Dogg tried to F my girlfriend.
I was gonna say, did you have any good experiences or bad experiences with wrestlers? But I would say the Road Dogg one was maybe good for your girlfriend.
No, she did not. They did not consummate.
Okay.
Yes, thank goodness.
But were there any experiences, times like you're like, oh, that guy is a real piece of crap, or that guy was much nicer than I would have expected from his character on TV?
No, they were all again, the ones that would kind of come down and talk were probably the ones that were pretty cool anyway.
Right.
But no, there was they were, everyone you ran into was cool. I ran into Lex Luger once too.
Oh yeah?
He just walked into I was working in a pharmacy, and he just walked into the pharmacy and asked me for something. I don't even remember what he asked me for. I was kind of like starstruck. Like I probably did one of the babbling, but he asked me for something that we didn't have. Like it was something weird, like drywall screws, and I said no, and he left.
I'm shocked that Lex Luger walking into a pharmacy wouldn't have asked for something else.
Yes, that's true.
Yes,
a lot of wrestlers would come to my pharmacy.
Oh, really?
Yes. Because it was close to an airport. Actually, no, it wasn't really the airport. It was more because it was close. It was close to the arena they would be at all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of in the area. And in Minnesota, you can buy Tylenol 1s and 2s over the counter.
Oh.
Where you can't do that in the rest of America. So wrestlers used to come in all the time while they were in town to buy some Tylenol 1s and 2s. By the bucket load. Tour buses used to come by.
It's very similar to the stories that I would hear of the people that would wrestle in California, especially Southern California. Sometimes it would be worth that walk across the border into Mexico because the exchange rate on what you could buy in Mexico, just a mile away, was a world of difference. Next time I'm out in Minnesota, I'll have to see if that pharmacy's still there, handing out 1s and 2s.
Oh, they all did, though. They all did. It was perfectly fine.
Oh my goodness. Now, so, obviously you get out of wrestling, everyone kind of grows up, grows out of it, whatever. Do you remember when it dawned on you that wrestling was fake?
No. No, like I remember there was a time where wrestling results were reported in the sports section.
Right.
Like there was you'd look and see the matches from last night in Madison Square Garden, and like the wins and losses were there. It was, but when did I figure out it's still real to me? I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, because I know a lot of times like people have like that moment where like somebody, kind of like how somebody would spoil Santa on someone. You remember that moment, or you see something,
It probably just happened in the time I transitioned out.
Okay.
I left wrestling. Oh yeah, that's fake, and so it didn't mean anything at the time, I guess.
Oh, okay.
And then I came back to it, but because it was fun. It was a soap opera.
Yeah.
For me.
So there's been no dalliances, no sticking your toe back into like being a regular day-to-day watcher since the Attitude Era ended.
No, not regular. Again, I've watched, a show here and there. I've kind of peeked in. I think a couple pay-per-views my neighbor had. I went over and watched probably a WrestleMania over that time, but never, not regular. I'm sorry.
No, I'm curious only because, obviously everyone, they'll give it a try if you have that bug in you, I know sometimes like people will have like kids or family members that are into it and you'll go and visit them and like people fall back into it that way. I know now they do a lot of stuff, both the big companies today, they'll do stuff where they bring in like celebrities, Bad Bunny wrestles or Logan Paul wrestles or something like that. Can you think of a celebrity that if they made an appearance on wrestling today, you're like, oh, I got to check that out?
Mick Mars.
Mick Mars?
Yes.
He was on during the Attitude Era. Motley Crue played on Monday Night Raw a couple times.
I still have the VHS tape somewhere.
Oh my goodness. So I guess
somewhere. They're not labeled. I'll never find it.
No.
But it's somewhere.
So is there any memories like that of the Attitude Era, like you're mentioning Mick Mars? It's just like something that like is stuck with you, this stuff is 25 years ago that this stuff happened, that is just stuck with you, like a weird moment. I haven't seen this in 25 years, but it's just a moment that lives in your mind forever from that time of watching wrestling.
No.
All right.
Honestly, no, there isn't. I'm trying to think of one. I wish one would pop out, but
okay.
Nothing. It was just it was a time, right?
Right.
Like it was just a moment in time. It was all good. And that's the thing. It was all. I mean, I know it wasn't all good, but it was all good.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was just so there were very few like drop offs at all during that time. It was always a story moving, always fun.
I know, on the wrestling podcast that I do, we look at like, oh, like this happened like X amount of years ago, whatever. And when we record lines up with those 1998 Monday Night Raws and Monday Nitros. And I know you never watched the WCW stuff, but we're like a week off the debut of Mr. Sacco. Yeah, like stuff like that. So, and I remember, still being a fan and, loving that sort of stuff, growing up with it and everything. It's all still so fresh in my mind. Like I just saw it yesterday.
That was one. And I during that time, I must have fell off for a while because, like I must have missed Cactus Jack somewhere.
Right.
Like I just got Mankind, but I had everything else before. So I must have missed a blip there where there was more than just Mankind. But I just remember Mankind. I can never remember Cactus Jack or Dude Love. Like, I must have missed all that.
Right. So Cactus Jack was more WCW, ECW.
Okay, so is that okay?
Yeah, Dude Love was, you know, like a 2-month run in like 1997.
Oh, okay.
And then would like sporadically pop up here and there when they needed like a storyline beat for him.
Yeah, which is what I never got. Like, I never got that.
Yeah.
Dude Love, and then when he did all the characters, and I didn't know Cactus Jack. I mean, what did I miss? What? So that's why.
Yes. So enough about the wrestling stuff, because you know you had mentioned the stuff on different podcast appearances, and when I was on Tic Tac 90s Yo, and I won.
You did win. Congratulations.
Thank you.
This is your prize.
This is my real prize. Yes. And I'd asked you to come on my podcast, and I mentioned that I do a wrestling show and I do a comic book show, and you're like, comic books? So there's the other thing that I want to talk to you about in addition to other stuff.
Okay.
And you mentioned that you still have your copy of Amazing Spider-Man 300.
I do. It's a 9.6.
Oh, okay. So that was what we're gonna get into. Do you send stuff out to be graded? Obviously,
no.
But you just know it's a 9.6.
No. So I was an Amazing Spider-Man guy.
Yes.
All through the McFarlane era. And then probably around Spider-Man 330, 340.
Mm-hmm.
I got into baseball cards.
Yes. A lot of people did.
Yes. So I sold a whole bunch of my Spider-Man comics to buy baseball cards because they were hot at the time. And I could, I think that is Amazing Spider-Man 300 at that time. I got $60 or $70 for it for a comic that was only a few years old. It was crazy. And I quickly regretted doing that. But I never did anything about it. But then when I was older and eBay came around, I'm like, I'm going to find me an Amazing Spider-Man 300 again. And I found that one graded, so I said, might as well just get that one.
Mm-hmm. So is that your... Oh, I'm sorry.
It's not my actual book from when I was a kid.
Is that your lone comic book possession that you currently have?
No, I've hundreds.
Oh, okay. So you're still so this is just your...
I don't still. No,
okay.
I'm long done. Like, I haven't bought a new book in 30 years.
Okay. But all the stuff from the 80s to early 90s pre-baseball cards, you still have most of that stuff still.
Yes, I do.
Sorry. You said Amazing Spider-Man. What else were you collecting at the time?
That was my one main book, was Amazing Spider-Man. I didn't like any of the other Spider-Mans I don't know why. I still to this day don't know what the difference between Amazing Spider-Man and Spectacular Spider-Man was. I'm sure you're going to tell me.
I could.
Please.
Okay. It was the writer. Like, when we were kids, we didn't realize it. But it was a writer in particular, J.M. DeMatteis. So many of those Amazing Spider-Man stories from that time were either written by him or another guy, Dave Michelini. And the early 80s, they were on your Web of Spider-Mans and Spectacular Spider-Mans. Mm-hmm. So if you go, have you ever read like Craven's Last Hunt?
No.
Okay. Craven's Last Hunt was a crossover with the 3 Spider-Man books. There was only 3 at the time. And all the issues were written by J.M. DeMatteis. And that was when he had moved off of Spectacular onto Amazing Spider-Man. And then for a long time, Amazing Spider-Man was really good. And the other ones weren't so good because the writer. But when you're a kid, you don't know. Like, you're not like a lot of times. I know I wasn't looking at the writers. The art is really what popped. You mentioned the Todd McFarlane stuff, of course. Yeah. But I'm the same way. I was an Amazing Spider-Man guy too. That was like the first comic that I remember buying and getting off the stands and like keeping a collection of in a shoebox in my sock drawer.
Yeah, that was the one for me. And then I picked up other ones here and there, but nothing ever stuck. Like I've got one-off issue. I've got 3 issues of this or that, but it was always just Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And then never DC for some reason. I hated DC.
I was going to, similar to the WWF, WCW thing, I was going to ask you Marvel or DC, but obviously just Marvel.
I think I've always been very tribal. I have to have mine. One and that's it. Everyone else is dead to me.
I know at the time it was there was no derogatory term for a DC person, but the derogatory term for someone who just read Marvel was a Marvel zombie. And then many years later in the early 2000s, they did a Marvel Zombies book, kind of as a play off that. And then, that was a big success.
Yeah, no, never liked DC. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you why.
Yeah.
It's Superman and Batman. I should.
Yeah.
Nope.
So you just have these comics that you've been sitting on for 30 years in your basement?
No, not in the basement.
Oh, they're somewhere.
They're somewhere. They're safe. Don't worry. In the event of flooding, they'll be safe. My guitars will all be washed away, but my comic books will be safe.
Are they cataloged? Do you know if you have anything in there that's worth money that you're saving for a rainy day, pun intended, with the flood?
Yeah, no. I mean, the 300 is probably my most valuable book.
Mm-hmm.
I've got older ones. I've got Amazing Spider-Man 36 and 64 and 98, 99, but they're not I didn't care when I was finding. If I found one, I didn't care what the condition was. I wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if I found an old one somewhere, I didn't care that half the cover of number 64 is ripped off and the back of it's written on, but I could still read it. So it did the job.
Yeah. I have an issue of Amazing Spider-Man number 4 where the middle 2 pages, like if you were to open it up to the dead center, those 2 pages are loose from the staples.
I have a Playboy that has a similar issue.
Well, that's, I don't know if you were hanging them on your wall or that's what it was, but
maybe. Yeah.
Now, do you have any of your baseball cards when you transferred over to being a baseball card collector from out of comics into that?
Yeah, I still have all that crap. It's worthless. What do I do?
Were you a Topps or a Fleer or a Donruss or an Upper Deck guy, or were you just getting everything?
I'm haunted by the vision of that red Donruss logo. Yeah, I was a Donruss guy, then Upper Deck.
Right.
Donruss into Upper Deck. But yeah. I love those cards.
I remember when Upper Deck came on the market and they came in the different packs that didn't have gum in them and they had a little hologram on them. And I'm like, oh, these are extra fancy, right?
It meant something.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
No.
Oh, garbage. People are going to just throw this in the trash when we're dead.
I say that all the time with my comic book collection. I've got 20, more than that. Let's say 30 long boxes of comics in my basement that I've been collecting over the last 30 some odd years.
How many boxes?
30.
Wow. I'm one. I've got one box.
Okay. I've got, again, I'm still daily going to the shop, picking up my new books and everything else. I don't think I could ever convert over to digital for comics. I like having them in my hands. But I have stuff down there that's worth money, not limited to that Amazing Spider-Man 300, but there's other stuff in there. And I always joke and I say, this will be my son's decision when I die. Does he go through all this stuff? And my stuff is all cataloged. All he has to do is pull up the Excel spreadsheet for everything. Or he could just throw it all out. That's going to be his decision. That's not my decision.
So, but you wouldn't sell it before just to cash out.
Unless we had some sort of emergency. I have a first.
What if one of your favorite podcasters wanted money?
Outside of a super chat and subscribing to 2 of his Patreons,
if
he needed more money,
yes.
Okay, we'd have to talk.
All right.
What if I buy 2 tickets to his upcoming live show on March 10th?
It's 2 ticket minimum, so it's
right. Well, I was gonna say, but I'm only coming as one person, but I bought 2 tickets.
But are you gonna spread out?
Well, what had happened was, I thought I was gonna be able to convince my wife to go, but she's not a fan of all the. She doesn't like John.
Okay.
John could be an off-putting character to some. And I'd called into the Creep Off a couple weeks ago, and I had jokingly said I'd purchased 2 tickets under the guise that by buying 2 tickets, that would give me special privilege that I wouldn't have to meet John, and Vinny wouldn't play my call on the air.
Good.
He specifically addressed it and said, email me so we could fix this problem. And it's been 2 weeks, and I'm still waiting for an email back from Vinny.
All right.
I don't think that email's coming. But I'm torn because I want to go to the Saturday show.
Yes.
And I want to go to the Sunday show.
Yes.
But I don't know what a motel in Rochester looks like. It sounds like a scary proposition.
No, there's some lovely hotels in the area. No, Rochester's not. Rochester's a nice place.
I've been before. There's a drag club there, Tilt. Maybe. I'm not sure how familiar you are with the area.
Nope.
But my wife and I had gone there a couple times as a hike. But I'm going to see if maybe I could coordinate with Vinny and turn my 2 Sunday tickets into a Saturday and Sunday ticket, and then sleep in my car or something. I don't know.
Interesting.
I said I really want to. I really want to go. Want to meet you.
Did you go to DabbleCon or anything?
No. So DabbleCon, I did not go to only because this was my mindset. Rochester, upstate New York in February. That sounds like a problem. This year, upstate New York in March. I'm sure that's close enough to spring, right? There won't be any snow.
Better.
That was legitimately my logic of not going to DabbleCon last year, and I was kicking myself over it because I could deal with cold, snow. I think you guys didn't get snow; it was just really cold, right?
It was really cold. Yeah, the snow came before.
Yeah, I could deal with snow. So, you had mentioned your guitars.
Yes,
you're a musician.
Allegedly.
Outside of your own theme song and other pieces of work that have popped up, what's the closest you were to making it big as a musician? You mentioned millions of dreams, pie in the sky ideas that you had. Mm-hmm. Was music the one that got you the closest to that dream?
I would say yes.
Yes.
It was music. It was we had I had a few bands, and again, I as I reminisce on my experiences, I'm convincing myself more and more I have ADD.
You mentioned that on the one show with Wendy, and I was shocked that you should ask Dr. Steve to diagnose you.
I should, but many bands, but I had one that was like it was good. Like we were really, really good. And we recorded a demo, and we had all these gigs lined up, and we were starting to play some really big places. And it was, still just mostly for, people we brought and a couple of things, but we started opening up for bands that were, kind of something. We had a band, invite us to go on a tour with them, and they were a name. And then it just disappeared one day. 2 guys just took off. And then it was never, it was always just trying to rebuild from there. But when you lose your lead guitarist and your singer, it kind of makes it harder to keep going. But we were good. We wrote everything. Like we wrote like crazy. It was fun. And we were good.
Did the two guys who left leave together? Did they leave separately?
No,
Did
they were cousins.
Okay.
They just they ended up going to work on a remote job somewhere. They but they just didn't even let us know. They're just gone.
Man, that's wild.
Yeah.
Have you in years like found out what they're up to, or they're just gone forever, like erased from existence?
No, they came back and everyone was doing something else, and no, I still keep in touch with a couple of them, but no, they didn't fall off the face of the earth. They just they killed the momentum, and then tried doing some other stuff that never got to what that was.
Now your demo's not out there for anyone to find, right?
Well, if you had 1999 and were at one of our shows, you might have one. But other than that, no.
Did you have somebody working the merch for you, or were you guys there breaking a 20 for your loyal fans?
Oh yeah, no, it was us.
Okay.
Maybe some of the girlfriends, but we tried.
It was I forget if it was on Howard. It was either Artie or Gilbert would always say there was nothing more depressing seeing like the guy that you just came on stage control the crowd, and then he's making change for you to sell his shirts or whatever. Yeah,
that sounds like an Artie.
Yeah.
Probably talking about Gilbert.
Well, I think they were talking about Jackie.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So the music stuff, just that the band kind of falling apart, those two guys leaving, just kind of killed the momentum.
Yeah, and that was it. And like I said, we did other things, and they were never. It was never that magic, right? Like what that felt. And I'm not saying it was mad. We were the next great thing, but
it was something.
It was something.
Yeah,
there's definitely something there. But yeah, other than that, then I, like I said, just did other bands, other things, and then life. And you moved on, and I probably put my guitars away for 10 or 15 years at one point. Again, just like wrestling, I just moved on to something like I don't know how long I'm going to be a YouTuber. I might be gone soon.
It's fleeting. Well, there's so many other ways to get content out there to people. I think YouTube is like the catch-all, but you'll if YouTube goes away, you'll find your platform. Yeah.
No, I'm just saying just how I've always just gone in different directions. So maybe this direction ends at some point.
Okay, so yes, I pick up. I'm picking up what you're saying. It's just one day there could be an incident that happens, or somebody goes away, or something, a flashpoint, if you will, that you just wake up one morning and you're just like, I'm done. I don't need this anymore. It's whatever.
March 11th, 2024.
It's all culminating to that moment.
Yes, that's it. Come see me for the last time.
Now, I guess so. Detroit Rock City. I'm not going to belabor the whole story. Was it on one of it was on maybe one of the test shows for Remember the 90s that it came up, or was it just one of your doodling around?
It was on one of my streams. It was on my channel.
Okay.
I think I was gone for a couple weeks, and I wanted to come back and give.
Right.
Give something. And I thought of that. I actually was on vacation, and I was messaging with some beloved chatters, and one that has a rather extensive Stern archive, and was able to find the audio of the episode when I called in. And my connection to the call-in was from Detroit Rock City, which is why I decided to put that out there.
What made you decide to audition for a movie? Did you have acting aspirations? Like, were you in high school plays? Were you in community theater? Or was it just something like, hey, they're in town. Why the hell not?
I was in plays in school.
Okay.
A couple, but they always... You're making me think back. Everything's ended in failure and destruction.
No.
We had the one year I got in the play. There was a like a teacher's strike, and then they shut down all the extracurriculars because of the strike. So we spent like half the year writing this thing. Like we wrote the play as a group.
Okay.
And we're performing it, and then we got shut down. Just like that. We never got to actually perform it. I wrote songs for it. I had solos. It's going to be amazing. But no, other than that, no. I did. I think I told the story on You'll Remember the 90s. I was walking out of a movie theater, and there was a guy handing out flyers.
That's right.
And I had long hair. He said, "We need guys with long hairs for movies." And he handed me a flyer. I called the number, and I paid $150 or something to an agent. They took a picture of me, and they started sending me out on stuff. It was just like I thought it was cool. I did always kind of envision myself being in movies somehow. Not necessarily an actor, but like working in movies, but I never did. It just never. I never did.
So, and obviously you told the story. It wasn't a bad experience. You were supposed to be in one larger role, like a named goon, and then it ended up being something else, right?
Yeah, something happened. They picked somebody else instead, but they gave me the part that you saw, but no face on camera, unfortunately. Or fortunately.
So that was just the one time. You didn't try to pursue that dream or that avenue of entertainment after that?
No, and again, I think I revealed this story too. I quit doing it after that because that was the largest money I ever made. I don't know, I made like $600 from that.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to pay my agent their commission, so I just never went back in to pay them. They didn't give me any other roles. So. It was short-sighted, yes, but I didn't want to pay 30%. $600. I had things to buy.
Now, you don't still get? There's no way that like you're not a named person, credits or nothing like that. So you don't get like residuals on this. Where like once a quarter you get like that 30-cent check in the mail from like.
If I was in that other role, I would have been like I would have been in the credits.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, he's named, and I don't know what I would have got as far as whatever residuals, but I would have been in the credits, and I would have had an IMDb. Just like John.
Because that's really what it's based upon, right?
Yes.
I have an IMDb.
Well, congratulations.
From all my wrestling stuff that I do, but like I said, it doesn't mean anything, you know? It's just a way that everything's cataloged, but some people think otherwise.
Yes. What is cool, I was having dinner with somebody who is a professional actor. And I got to see IMDb Pro. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
I have a friend of mine who's a wrestling promoter, and he pays for IMDb Pro because, you know, wrestling is entertainment. And I guess on IMDb Pro, you get access to like a little bit more direct access to maybe people's agents and representation. Yeah.
And then there's also stuff on there for gigs and.
Right.
Yeah.
So pre-pandemic, what he was attempting to do was he would check to see like what comedians were in town that had the slightest connection to professional wrestling. Like, you know, and he runs shows in the Cleveland area where Obnoxious John is from. And it'll be like, Pauly Shore's coming to town the same time that we're running our event. Let's reach out to Pauly Shore, IMDb Pro, Pauly Shore's agent, and see if Pauly would want to do like a quick appearance at the wrestling show, like in between him doing, his stand-up. And you'd be surprised on how highly Pauly Shore values his time.
Oh, wow. I can only imagine.
Yes. And I think the other one that he tried to reach out to was Dice, because Dice was doing a show in the Cleveland area. Mm-hmm. And the number that Dice came back with was, I think, his entire budget for the show.
Wow. When was this with Dice?
This had to be like maybe like 2018, 2019, maybe.
Okay, so Dice was hot again by then.
Right, because I think it was after his role in the Lady Gaga movie.
Oh, yeah, not Blue.
Not Blue Jasmine.
Jasmine.
Something to be a star.
Yeah.
A Star is Born.
Yeah. But again, popular dice. This wasn't 1994 dice.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
But I'm sure 1994 dice would have asked for the same amount.
Yes, just like 1994 Pauly Shore would have asked for the same amount as 2019 Pauly Shore.
Yes.
But yeah, I think he when he was subscribed to that, and like that's the way he gets his connections to get book a lot of the other name wrestling talent that he'll come and do appearances. He just had the Boogeyman show up and do his Worms bit at his show. I don't know if you've ever seen the Boogeyman.
No.
All right, you're better off.
Good. I'm going to look it up after that.
All right, good. So the last thing I want to ask you about is, we talk about all the different avenues of entertainment that you've attempted to get a foothold in and fandom of or what have you. Mm-hmm. I think you're very funny.
Thank you.
When did you find out that your brand of humor works in this avenue of podcasting?
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I've the ball busting I do is how I've always been. And I've started to realize that I think the real me comes out of Cardiff, but I've lost friends for some of the things I've said. People have not set foot in my house in 20 years for some of the things I've said at a dinner party. So maybe it is because and it was because all I listened to all day was Opie and Anthony and Howard Stern. Right? That was my day in the car all day.
Right.
And I wanted to come home and talk like they talked on the radio, right? So that didn't fit so much in polite company. It fit with the people that it fit with, but then I think this world started from WATP was, again, it came from Opie and Anthony. So I figured it would work. And maybe it has just a little bit.
I would say so. You've had longevity as any character. I would argue that you have your own little spin-off universe with everything else. Is that just because you're this WATP thing, so many different people and things and shows cycle in and out, that you should have your own sort of thing on the side, whether it be You'll Remember the 90s, whether it be subreddit surfing, which is still tangentially in the WATP universe. But if just for some reason tomorrow WATP goes away, you still have at least two other things to fall back on.
Well, no, I mean, the whole, I'm going to really take the mask off here.
Uh-oh.
I hope nobody listens to this, do they?
No.
Good. Phew. No. But, I mean, the whole Cardiff podcast was a joke. It was just a response to a gag. I'll do the whole story on Dr. Steve's podcast one day. I'll kind of tell it from the beginning, but and I've promised that to him because he got me started. So I've committed that origin story to Dr. Steve. But the podcast was all a joke. But as I started doing it, the YouTube channel especially was a joke. But as I started doing it, I started enjoying doing it. And then I'm like, okay, but, and I've expressed some John fatigue lately too.
Yes.
If it's not fun, I don't want to do it. Right. So I knew at some point I was going to kind of get tired of talking about John for a bit. I wanted to do some other stuff too. And I just wanted, and I'm like, well, I know I could do a show. I know I can talk. I won't freeze up. I know I'm funny. Okay. Well, I want to do these other shows. I like, the subreddit surfing was just an idea I pitched to Vinny. And then You'll Remember the 90s. The three of us were talking after one of our shows, and I think we talked about 90s stuff or something. I go, that would be a great show. And then we also, that would be, and we just decided to do it. But I want to have stuff that, yeah, that's outside of the Dabbleverse, because at some point the Dabbleverse is not going to be interesting, I imagine.
I think it was maybe Phil Elmore, who's one of the newer characters in all of this.
Yes.
Not you. He had said that he feels that it could get to a point where the Dabbleverse will move so far away from John that people will know that the Dabbleverse name and all the players in it, but not that the origins of it was everything with John and what Chrissy said to him on that call. He feels it has that sort of like, able to just kind of keep going forever.
It's possible. I mean, I'm already seeing it, with in chats, when we did stuff like the foundations of the Dabbleverse, like stuff we bring up, and it's like people don't know who this is. This has been mentioned so many times. Like, it's just strange to me. But yeah, people are coming in new, right? Even I'm sure I did a Dabbleverse Origins show a year ago, and I brought the clip of Chrissy Mayer and talked about stuff, and people, I think in my chat then, were like, really? That's like a year out.
Right.
So yeah, as time goes, it's going to become, it could just become something else. It could just be a blip in time and then gone.
Now, you had mentioned about you're going to give your origin story to Dr. Steve.
Yes.
I have to go back to a Twitter thread from August 26th of this year.
Sure.
You had announced a New Year's Eve extravaganza coming to Buffalo, New York.
Yes.
And you had named several people that were going to be there.
Yes.
And I had replied and said, I guess Dr. Steve's invite got lost in the mail.
Yes.
And you said, he said, no, I don't talk to him anymore. And I said, if that's the case, can I get the exclusive unmasking interview? And you said, why not? So I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Cardiff. But tweets or posts or whatever they call them now are legal binding contracts. So I'm sorry to spring it on you like this.
Well, the thing is, I've made up with Dr. Steve. I'm not sure what I was mad at him about, so I rescinded that tweet.
Okay.
And when you rescind a tweet, all contracts and agreements thusly are invalid and invalid.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
All right. I tried.
You did. Did you have that framed on your wall?
No, I don't. I that was really the only preparation I did for this was to find that tweet and bookmark it.
Good.
And as soon as you said that it was invalid, I unbookmarked it.
Good. You should. It's been rescinded in the halls of Congress.
All right.
It's actually rather expensive to do.
I guess it's worth the money.
Should have just deleted it.
Yeah. I'm not a tweet deleter. And I would guess that you probably you strike me as the kind of person who's not either.
I have been. I've done selective. I've changed my I think I've changed my character a couple times.
Okay.
Early on, so I had to delete some tweets to make the new storyline fit. I had to delete some podcast episodes. You know how things were. Just add some mystery. I think I deleted one episode just knowing that I was going to see one person in the Discord say, "Hey, episode 4 is missing of the Cardiff podcast. Something's up." Does anybody have, just to get people talking about it? And even if it was one person, it was.
Now, I don't want to say I'm the type of guy that still has them all archived from the first time they go out.
Really?
Yeah. Once I kind of caught on to what you were doing, I'm like, I have a feeling these could be gone tomorrow. And I had a friend of mine who did a podcast called Hoops Chat. It was supposed to be a basketball podcast, and the bit was they never got around to talking about basketball. And he did about 18 episodes of the show. It was a very funny show. He's a very funny guy. And then just all of a sudden, one day, he just deleted them all. And he's like, I'm tired of this. And I wish I saved them all. And from that moment, I'm a very big hoarder of digital media, podcasts, things like that.
So you would be the archivist of Cardiff. An archivist.
Unofficial. If somebody needed to write the Cardiff Electric Wikipedia page, I would be submitting many edits to it.
I hope that happens one day.
Yes.
I hope that happens one day. How far back do you go? Curious. Someone who's been my most faithful archivist. How much does he know? How much have I let out?
Let me look. Again, a lot of it is through DMs with my friend Matt. Shout out to him, loyal car defender as well.
Troll.
So let me see here. So I don't know the date off the top of my head. I don't have my file right in front of me, and I don't want to start digging through text files because I'm a text file guy. But your first time that you were on WATP, I think I had seen some of your stuff popping up, or you liking WATP tweets or whatever it was. And you had mentioned that you had a podcast, and I found the Anchor FM RSS feed.
Okay.
Which sometimes is difficult to get connected to a podcatcher. So I was ripping raw audio M4As out of the RSS feed and converting them to MP3s and backing them up. So whatever your first time on WATP was, maybe I was able to go back the week or two before that you had episodes out on the RSS feed.
What was the date? That first WATP? I don't even have that anymore.
See, that's the thing. I can't.
Oh, you don't have it? Okay.
I don't have it in front of me right now, and I don't want to be dead air and while I'm trying to search it out.
Got it. Send that to me though. I want to look that. I don't think I've heard my first time on WATP in a long time.
You're much more subdued, I guess would be the way to say it.
Oh yeah, I've definitely given up on a lot of the.
You were very pensive, I guess would be the word to say.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when I played bass?
No. It was when you came on as a John Defender. And you were
on screen?
No, you were just
on Discord.
No, you were on the show. I don't know if there was I'd have to go back and grab the video of it. But there definitely wasn't they weren't playing your call, you were there talking, but I don't think you had a video pop up for the YouTube or whatever.
Oh, okay.
I'll find it and I'll send it to you.
And then I'll make you dig more because I was a frequent caller before that too.
Ooh.
Fun fact.
Oh boy. All this Cardiff lore that I'm going to have to put citations on the Wikipedia about.
The other shows I appeared on before WATP, do you know those?
No. Other than the one called to Howard Stern.
Yes, other than that one.
I assume you would call, if Opie and Anthony, Ron and Fez type shows had a call-in element, I would guess that you probably called in on those.
I did. O&A, I don't think I ever got through to O&A. I think they might have played I think they played one of my parody songs once.
Oh, really? Wow.
I posted it you're on Patreon, right? Yeah, you're on
Yes.
Yeah, I posted it. It's the Nagel song, the 8575309 or what the song Jenny.
Yes.
It was when Opie gave out Eric's number. And then he paid him in pennies. Compensate him. Anyway, it was actually Eric's number that I put into the song. Yeah.
So you've had this in you for a long time, however long, Open Anthony, calling into Howard, goes back to
Bubba.
the late 90s.
I just call him Bubba. I have calls to Bubba that I cannot find. I wish I could find those. I used to fool him all the time. I'm so stupid. Convinced him his book was the number one book on Amazon, and he put me right on.
It's a different world down there in Florida.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
So I guess we'll close with this. We're talking about Howard stuff and O&A stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to choose one, for whatever reason, what's your go-to?
And I get to choose a time frame, or just like
you could choose a time frame.
Okay.
You could choose, the body of work, whatever it is. This is your Sophie's choice, if you will.
O&A.
Really?
Yep. But like the Patrice years.
Okay.
Of O&A, the ball busting, the comedian years, like that was great. That was great. Patrice gone too soon.
I was just thinking about him today. Like that time that he was on Opie and Anthony, and he was in like Arrested Development. He was on The Office.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know he had a brief stint? Like I think he probably mentioned on O&A, he had a brief stint in WWE as a writer.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like what a weird career he had.
Mm-hmm.
Just an amazing performer,
He was amazing. And yeah, when I heard him, he was coming in like, oh, I can't leave the car. I can't leave the now to be fair though, without Howard, I wouldn't have had the obsession with talk radio.
Mm-hmm.
But it just wasn't like I had a glorious time when it was Howard in the morning and O&A in the afternoon, because I had both.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they were both morning shows, it was you had to choose one, and usually I chose O&A.
Wow.
Yeah. Again, at a point.
Yeah.
At a point, like the beginning of Serious years, it was all Howard.
Yeah.
But it started to fade. Like just Howard started. Like Howard now stinks, but I started to see the real boredom, I guess, setting in when he started doing the therapy with his interviews.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was before the Marcy Turk days too, but it was just,
yes.
He started to, why do you think you did that? And you just heard his therapy sessions coming out in the interview, and I was like, oh, I don't want to hear this.
Already leaving was like the biggest blow for the show.
Yeah. Yeah, that lines up probably perfectly. When Artie left, I was done.
Yeah. I hung in there for a little bit longer, and I'm a Howard fan. Like my dad bought me the VHS of the Underpants and Negligee Party when I was far too young to be watching it, because there's a Penn and Teller skit on there, and I love Penn and Teller. And my dad,
Penn and Teller.
Was that?
I've met Penn and Teller.
Oh, really? Oh my goodness, that is cool.
Yes, I have a picture with both of them.
Was that just like at a show, or were you like pulling cable for them? Or
no, it was after their show. They were out in the lobby taking pictures of people. I bought a ticket.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I don't know. You seem like the kind of guy that can get in anywhere you need to get into.
But I will say I was competing with Penn for size and stature.
Oh. Yes, I haven't met you yet, but I hear you're a tall man.
Yes, I'm a giant.
Mm-hmm. I'm only 6'1", so when we meet in March and we get that photo,
so I'm not that much of a giant compared to you.
I'll slouch.
Thank you.
You ever see that famous picture of Andre the Giant and Vince, like in the young days, where Andre is very clearly staying in a box?
Yes.
He's like a full person taller than Vince McMahon.
I will stand on a box.
Yes, I'll bring an apple crate with me. You could stand on that. But I've been a Howard fan since like 1986, 1987, and I haven't listened to a full episode of Howard in over 12 years, but I still consider myself a Howard Stern fan because it was so much of my life,
Yeah. I just wish he retired. I really just wish he retired. Then I could have just gone out remembering him the way he was.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, call me woke as you fucking want.
Oh, boy. When you were playing that alongside the old WNBC stuff, Oh. Excuse me.
Oh. So Such a wonderful sound.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did add some contrast to a
Yeah.
little bit of contrast to Mr. Stern.
But you would, well, again, like we could belabor Howard. But I'll remember the point. It was post Artie. He had Whitney Cummings on. If you're aware of the comedian Whitney Cummings, she was promoting her sitcom, and I guess like the first episode had already aired, and it like did horribly in the ratings. And Howard spent the entire
was that fantasy show?
No, it was a sitcom just called Whitney.
Oh, okay, yeah.
This would have been like 2011, let's say.
Okay.
And she came in, first episode aired, it does poorly. She comes in to promote the show, and she's depressed because it did poorly. And Howard spends 45 minutes telling Whitney how beautiful she is. He's the kind of girl that he would go for if he wasn't married, and all these other things. And I'm like, Howard is just lying. He's straight up like making up stories. This isn't what he really believes, and this is fake. I'm like, I'd asked you before, like, did you know the moment that you found out that wrestling was fake? That interview with Whitney Cummings was the moment I found out that Howard Stern was fake.
Yeah, it's. I did have a similar experience, I think, with Nikki Sixx.
Where Nikki Sixx was on Howard, or you met Nikki Sixx?
No, I met Nikki Sixx, but it was when I realized I was buying the same album like a 14th time, and then he's selling me his book, and I was like, you know what? I think this guy's just in this for the money. I don't think he means it. I don't think he's as passionate about the music as he once was. And yeah, there's that moment when your heroes let you down, and I hope, as one of your heroes, I never let you down. But I know that it's inevitable, and I understand.
As long as you don't
apologize.
As long as you don't block me on social media, I think we're okay.
I can't promise you.
All right. Well, I think that's a perfect time to wrap this up. I've kept you for a very long time. I appreciate your time. I know your time is very valuable.
It is. Extremely.
The $1,000 will be Venmo'd to you when we're done.
Thank you.
Anything you would like to plug that I haven't already plugged?
Get your tickets now for Subreddit Surfing Live, March the 9th, carlsoncomedy.com. Thank you.
So again, follow Cardiff on social media, Cardiff Elect.
Yes.
Support everything that he does. Sign up for his Patreons. Super chat him. And you know what? I want to close out with just this. Can I get an FKB?
What's that mean?
Oh, you don't know what that means?
I don't know what it means if it's not in the form of a super chat.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. All right.
Brennan.
It was an accident.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for everyone for listening. Hopefully everyone enjoys this as much as I enjoyed conducting this.
Edit that one too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.